All right, so for tonight, I would like to talk about Torah versus feminism. To take it out, and who's going to win. And this is part of our discussion in Parshat Bereshit, different issues in Parshat Bereshit. And this comes into the story that after the sin of the tree of knowledge, so Chava gets a bunch of curses, and we're going to talk about the details about the curses. But one of them is the whole Yom Shabbat, that it seems to say that the man will rule over you. Okay, and so it seems to say that this is the reality that men have power over women, and so that's where it comes into our discussion of what does the Torah actually say about feminism and sexism. So I want to start by just having a little bit of definitions. So based on my limited understanding of from Rabbi Google. So there's a difference between different words that I want to clarify. There's chauvinism, there's sexism, and there's misogyny. Okay, so what's the difference between these terms? So apparently, chauvinism is the belief in the superiority of men over women, and sexism is the discrimination against women, whether it's in political rights, whether it's in professional rights, whether it's in social rights. So it's the discrimination that's called sexism, and whereas the way I understand this is chauvinism is more the idea, it's more the theory, and sexism is the practicalities that come out of chauvinism. Okay, then there's misogyny. That apparently misogyny is the hatred of women. Who would hate women? I don't understand.
Sounds like
Okay, it's a mental illness. Misogyny.
It's just bad people.
It's okay to hate women. You're hating half the world. It's like, okay, so let's leave that out. Let's assume that's just cuckoo to just hate women as a stance. That's I think it's I'd rather be hate a minority. The women are majority. They're
yeah.
Okay, so
Find a minority to hate.
what?
Arabs.
Okay, there's two different questions here. That number one is what does the Torah have to say about chauvinism, meaning that the belief of the superiority of men over women, and secondly is what does the Torah have to say about sexism, of discrimination against women. Okay, so I want to just explain that these are two different questions. One is a theoretical question, that who is actually better, and the second is a question of rights. And the two are actually they don't have to go hand in hand. It would make sense for them to go hand in hand, but they don't have to go hand in hand, because a person could believe that women are actually amazingly valuable, and yet discriminate against them just because. For whatever reason, you could have, because that's what it says in the Torah, and you could discriminate in them. It's just that's what my boss told me. It's you could be sexist without being chauvinist. You could also be chauvinist without being sexist, right? You could actually believe in the superiority of men over women, and just when it comes to giving them rights, so your mother always told you that you ladies first and whatever, and you're always showing respect to women and giving them rights, even though deep down you think that it doesn't really make sense. Okay, so these are two actually different questions, and it's worthwhile to look at what the Torah has to say about each one independently. Okay, so first of all, the question. So feminism is mostly a movement which is a reaction to sexism. Okay, most of feminism is dealing with rights, and there's different schools of thought within feminism that the common denominator between the different levels of sexism is that there should not be discrimination, right? So the now in the discussion of Torah and feminism, so I saw some crazy things when I was researching this topic. For example, that some go so far as to say that because of their feminist beliefs, so that forces them to disbelieve in the divinity of the Torah, because the Torah, the truth that I believe in, the God that I believe in is a woman. No, I'm just kidding. That the God that I believe in doesn't believe in discrimination, and so if the Torah discriminates, so that proves that the Torah wasn't written by God. Okay, so this is a very extreme thing to say, and it really relates to what we spoke about last week when we spoke about Torah versus science. That it's important to have your focal point, to have your starting point. Like where do I look for truth? Okay, so we're starting from the starting point that the Torah is truth. So I'm not going to discredit the Torah because of my beliefs. And so hopefully we're going to be able to find some way of making peace with the Torah and accepting the fact that the Torah is from God. Now the truth is that certainly in the first discussion, in the discussion of chauvinism, i.e. that is there actually a superiority of men over women? So in the Torah Shebeksav, in the Chumash itself, there's very little evidence as to who is better. Okay, there doesn't seem that there is, the Torah never seems to say anything that men are better than women or vice versa. There's always respect between men and between the husbands and wives in the Torah. And like with Avram and Sarah, they seem to have a nice marriage. They seem to have nice conversations. Like Yaakov and Rachel, Yaakov and Leah. The Torah talks about husbands respecting their wives. It doesn't talk about them thinking that they're less. Now that doesn't mean that they didn't think they're less. But it's hard to bring proofs from the Torah as to who is actually greater. And I think it's important to note that these things, we don't live in a bubble, and how we as human beings look at the difference between different genders, whether we like it or not, we are very affected by the environment around us. Okay, and just like we are affected by the environment around us, so the generations before us were affected by the environment around them. And the fact is that for a very long time, so women were absolutely looked at as inferior, and therefore it's possible that rabbis at any point in time actually did look at women as inferior. Now, if we look at Chazal, so Chazal, that's already a different level. That's already just not what's like some rabbis thought. So if you would show me a sefer from 1,000 years ago, let's say from the times of the Rishonim, that it's clear from this sefer that they actually thought that women are inferior to men, so that wouldn't really impress me, because I'm positive that Rashi and the Rambam and like other Rishonim, that they were absolutely affected by the environment around them, and just like rabbis today are affected by the environment around them, and like the fact that I have more of a liberal feminist view on the world is absolutely because of the fact that I'm living in 2024, and if I would have lived 1,000 years ago, I would be giving a different class, and it wouldn't have been recorded for YouTube. So it's important to note that when it comes to this, there is really no room for a what we've been calling a fundamentalist idea, that meaning to say that well, until now I actually thought that women were okay, but I read in the Torah that but I read in the Torah that women are really pathetic. So okay, because of my devotion to Hashem, so I'm gonna impress upon myself that from now on look at women as pathetic. Like I don't think there's any room for that in the first place, because like we all, whether we like it or not, we are all like affected by the society, and this is true even in the ultra Orthodox communities, that there's the way that women are looked at in terms of every element of life is totally affected by society, to the fact that I don't know if I ever told you this, that before I got married, so my Rebbe was Rebbe Foshman Levitz, Zechar Vacha, and he was like completely ultra Orthodox, like mainstream Haredi, and his father was Chaim Shulevitz, who was one of the Gedolei Adar. He was the Rosh Yeshiva of Mir. So he told me that when he got married, so his father told him that you have to know the way you have to know the way a Jewish home is run, that it's very important to take to be sensitive to your wife. It's very important that she deserves respect, and she deserves that you should not ignore her. She deserves that you should take all of her ideas and all of her thoughts and all of her needs into every decision that you make in your life. At the end of the day, it's important for you to know that you're the one that's calling the shots. Okay, there needs to be a tone in the house, and you need to be the one that's creating that tone, and that's what he said. My father taught me. Like he got married, let's say in the 60s, let's say. So maybe the 50s. I don't know. It's either the 60s or either the 50s or 60s. Anyway, so that's what when he was getting married, and he told me that even though that's what my father told me, that's not what I'm telling you, and in this generation, so you and your wife are completely equal, and there's no rule that you have the last say and you're the and it just doesn't go anymore. Now, what did he mean? Like, doesn't that seem strange? Like, aren't you, like, you're an Orthodox rabbi? If your father, the Gadol Ador, told you that this is the way a Jewish home is run, so how dare you be so rebellious and go against Torah, go against what Hashem wants you to do? Like, why are you telling me? Obviously, he felt that this is not necessarily a Torah value. This is something that is evolving with world history, and we're a part of it. Okay, so now the way that we look at things is obviously going to be affected by the way that the world looks at things, and like as we make our decisions, so we're going to look back into the sources and we're going to interpret it differently based on what our fundamental values are. So like and that's okay, and that's really okay. And you could have somebody that 1,000 years ago looked into the Torah and saw one thing, and now 1,000 years later, because of the way we look at life, so we see a different thing. So if we want to start just from as an overarching theme of this class, so when the Torah said, when Hashem tells Chava v'hu yim shabach, that He's going to rule over you, so that the Rishonim give different explanations like of what that means. That I'll tell you that Rashi says that He's in control. That means when it comes to sexual things, the Ramban writes that hu yitzava kol ratzona that He's whatever He commands. That's your word is my command. That's like the way a Jewish home is supposed to be. This is the Ramban talking about like 1,000 years ago, that he's like whatever he tells her what to do, and she's like a maidservant, and so there's it seems like this is it's a pasuk in the Torah that she's like subordinate, and like nowadays 1,000 years later we can look at this and we could say, well, that was a curse, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. and now we are experiencing the end of the curse, which is actually bringing the world to the way it was supposed to be before the sin, which is actually a step in the right direction. And it says that it says regarding another part of the pasuk, it says one of the other curses to Chava was that the pain of pregnancy and also childbirth. And specifically, I saw with pregnancy that the Rishonim say that this is a curse that is not supposed to be, and when Mashiach comes, it's no longer going to exist. And it says that so women are going to be able to have children in a day. It's not going to be. It's a very quick process, and there's not going to be, and then just one day pregnant, and then 3 months maternity leave, and then it's very, and then try getting jobs, right? And so, so it seems clear that we're in a movement to try to reach a state of the way it was before the sin, and so if it's only a curse, the fact that V'hu Yom Shabbat, that means it's very wonderful. The fact that it's no longer existing. Okay, so the way that we look at these things is absolutely a result. The way that we interpret the psukim is a result of the way that we look at life, and we are a function of the evolution of society. And it's important to keep in mind something that Rav Kook writes about, and that is that the evolution of society is, of course, coming from Hashem. And Rav Kook writes about this, about the way the world looks at different moral things. He's speaking about slavery, that in the times of the Torah, so slavery was looked at as a legitimate thing, and a fundamentalist could say that it says in the Torah that there's such a thing as slavery. Like, how dare you say it's human rights? What's what's you're going against the Torah? You're a heretic. You don't believe in that. And so Rav Kook writes that the Torah never says that you're obligated to have slavery. The Torah says that there's such a thing as slavery. It didn't prohibit it. And the Torah relied on mankind to evolve to a place that they realize themselves that it's not appropriate and it's against human rights and that that's not the way that things should be run. And that's Hashem speaking through the morality of mankind and bringing them to this next level. And it's the exact same thing when it comes to women's rights, when it comes to women's status. Okay, so that's the introduction to this discussion. That number one, that there is no black and white. Everything is up to interpretation, and whether we like it or not, we're going to be subjects of the society that we live in. And and number two, that's going to affect the way that we interpret the different things, and there really is a lot of things which are up for interpretation. Okay, so now going back to the first question of chauvinism. Okay, we said before, the chauvinism is the belief that there's a superiority of men over women. Okay, so what does the Torah have to say about who is better? So who's bigger? Who's better? So it doesn't really say anything clear. But when it comes to the thinking process, when it comes to mental capabilities, so there's two interesting statements that Chazal have. Okay, the first is, it says Nashim datan kalot. Okay, Nashim datan kalot means that it's easier to coerce a woman than it is to coerce a man. Okay, and this has halachic ramifications. That it says that because of this halacha of Nashim datan kalos, that there's a difference in the halachas of yichud between men and women. That it's enough, you can have 2 men with 1 woman, but you need 3 women with 1 man. Whatever. Why? Because it's easier to coerce a woman into sinning than it is to coerce a man. And it seems to say that be saying that men are just more strong-minded than the women, and it's easier to change their mind. So that would infer that men are better than women. Women are inferior, because if you're just very easy to, just like naive and easy to play with you, so then that would be an inferiority. Okay? On the other hand, the Gemara says that bina yisera nitla nashim. It says that women have they have a superior bina, and bina is often translated as intuition, and it's also translated as analytical skills. skills. And bina is lahavin davar mitoch davar, is like to infer one thing from the other, which sometimes we do analytically and sometimes we do intuitively. Okay, but like the ability to see beyond what's at face level, that to be able to see what's going to be tomorrow based on the situation today, that's bina. So even though it says that, and it says that this has to do with the fact that women become bat mitzvah before boys become bar mitzvah because of this bina yisera. So it's simply that they have higher mental capabilities, and that's why they become responsible at an earlier age. So the fact that it praises the bina and it insults the dad, so that shows us that really the Torah is not, the Chazal are not saying that one is greater than the other, but rather that they are just different. Now, so meaning that in Kabbalah it says that the different parts of the brain have different names, and we have Chachma, which is the ability to obtain knowledge, which interestingly is not in the list, meaning that women and men are not described regarding the Chachma, which would imply that the Torah believes that there's no difference between men and women when it comes to attaining knowledge. Okay? When it comes to the ability to learn, so there's no difference between men and women. Okay? Which flies in the face of the fact that some believe that Torah is not meant for women, and it's forbidden to teach Torah to women, and that's obviously coming from this mentality that women just don't get it, and their ability to obtain knowledge is just that they're just dense, they just misunderstand everything, and that's clearly not the case, because when it comes to Chokhmah, there's no difference between men and women. So that we'll talk about more about Torah study in the question about sexism, because that's more of a law that seems to discriminate against women. But let's circle back to the question about the superiority. So this is the fact that the Torah talks about the das as being low and the bina as being higher. So that would imply that really what Chazal are referring to is the being specific at the kinds of the thought process. So the chachma, which is the ability to obtain knowledge, and then there's the bina, which is to infer from that original thing, and then das is the ability to make decisions. Okay, and so Chazal are saying that women are stronger in their ability to infer one thing from the other, to see what's going to be tomorrow, and they're weaker in their ability to make decisions. Now, why would they be weaker in their ability to make decisions? So some point to the fact that in general that they have stronger emotions, okay, which is a value, which is a mila. It's not a detriment, and this is something that obviously the Torah, if this is true, if this is what they mean, that they're more connected to their emotions, so it's actually a beautiful thing. But I'll tell you an example of a possible, if this is what they mean, that like we have a lot of I think a lot of people that are thinking like girls when it comes to this, that the whole bring them home now movement, okay? that basically the bring them home now is saying that we have an obligation to our hostages, and we need to bring them home now. What does it mean now? It means that whatever it takes, even if it takes something which is going to endanger the future of the Jewish people, even if it I don't care how dangerous, how many thousands of terrorists we're going to be releasing. How can you think about how they feel in this cramped tunnel, and they can barely breathe, and they're barely living, and think about that. Think of what if it was your son, what if it was your daughter? Think about, and they're appealing to emotions, and because they're thinking from their emotions, they're doing something which is impulsive and actually the wrong decision, because the most important thing is to think about the future. The most important thing is to think about the safety of everyone. And I'm not saying that I don't have any military opinions about this. I'm just saying theoretically, if it would be objectively dangerous for the future of the Jewish people, then that would be a emotional driven decision, that because my emotions are with the pain that this person is going through. So so I don't care about the fact that the brainier thing would be is to think about the big picture, because how can you think about that? But what about my son? Yeah.
First of all, you're bringing a political opinion into something that I don't know.
Right.
Because you can make other arguments. What you're saying, you could say.
I made it theoretical. I mean, like, if theoretically it would be objectively a dangerous thing to do.
But you also make the argument that Pidyon Shulim is one of the greatest mitzvot.
No, it doesn't. It's not greater than saving lives.
But you can, okay.
If it would cause people to die, then if it, of course it's Pidyon Shulim, let's leave this for after. But like, it's not. It certainly doesn't. There's no halachic basis for people to die for Pidyon Shulim.
Your analysis could be argued with.
Right. That's why I'm saying theoretically. I was like, let's take it theoretically that it would be actually dangerous.
If that were the case, then sure.
Yeah, then you would still have people that, because of their emotional driven decision making, they would still be saying that I don't care about that, right? Yeah, there's people like that,
Yeah,
and there are people like that, and so it could be that is what Chazal is speaking about. That's where das comes in. That that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, right? And that's why the people who are making the decisions, that they need more das, and because they need more das, they need to be a little bit cold. And to be a little bit cold is actually a detrimental thing. So it's not better or worse. It's just different, right? Okay. So that's when it comes to their mental capability. But there's more to life. There's more to life than mental capability, right? I imagine that most probably the most simple difference between men and women is their physical strength, and that's probably why, since the beginning of time, there has been this thought that men are superior to women. That simply because of the physical strength. Because in a secular society, the most important thing is your physical strength, and so if men are superior in physical strength, then that makes them superior. I think that's I don't know. I'm not a historian, but I imagine that's the evolutionary understanding of where chauvinism came to be. Okay, so now Judaism obviously doesn't believe that it's all about physical strength, and we believe that there's more to life than physical strength. When it comes to spirituality, so it's there are sources that it's also a reality that the women are more spiritual than men. Okay, so this is something that, first of all, there's Torah sources for this. There's the commentaries that say that the bracha the women make, Shasani Kirtzano, that actually means this, that when women say Shasani Kirtzano, what that means is that thank you Hashem for making me in accordance with your will, meaning the women are naturally more spiritual than men, and this is something which is simply a fact, that women are more spiritual than men. I saw a statistic that 90% of the converts to Judaism are female. That it's a known fact in all of the female.
Interesting.
It's a known fact that in the world of outreach, that like the majority of the people who are interested are actually the girls, and the boys are just coming for the girls, and or for the money, but depending on which organization you're working with, but it's we like those pretzels, huh? So it's I remember when I was recruiting once in Hebrew University, and it was when there's always lots of people coming, and I remember the only reason I would ever ask a boy is only because I was scared that somebody would notice that I'm only walking up to girls and that I would look strange. But it's statistically, it's that you get much more interest by women than you get by men. It's just a fact. Okay, so it's absolutely a fact that if we want to generalize, the women are more spiritual than men, and so it would, so on the one hand, men are stronger than women, and on the other hand, women are more spiritually inclined than men. Okay, so I would say that Judaism would say, what's more important, physical strength or spiritual strength? Probably spiritual strength, right? So I would like if you would without having any sources, I would say, what would Judaism probably say about who's superior? So it's probably women. For the secular side, so I think it is also true that in general women are better looking than guys. They're more like refined. It's more like I think that's a fact. Yeah. So it seems like, so from an objective perspective, so I think that it doesn't make sense to say that the Torah would believe in the superiority of men over women. If anything, the opposite. And there's also in the Likutei Torah from the first Rebbe of Chabad, he writes an interesting thing that when Mashiach comes, so then there's going to be a reality. The women are actually going to be in a higher state of everything. Like they're going to be the higher status of life than men. That's how he interprets a pasuk in Yirmiyahu, that it says Nekeva Tesaveh Gaver, that the woman is going to run circles around the man, which he interprets to mean that they're going to just be ruling the world, which is connected to an interesting discussion of that can or will Mashiach be a man or a woman? That I'm a firm believer that Mashiach could be a woman. If you look up on the internet, there seem to be the only thing I could find clear about this is
Yeah, I was just thinking
that is such a lame argument that it says B'nai Yisrael. It's a million times the Torah. Every time it's me, right?
It could be Mashiach, Mashiach Bat. It doesn't say that anywhere. When the singular.
Because it could be either. I'm not saying that it can't be a man, but the whenever we speak in masculine, like 99% of the time, it's referring to men and women. When it says the B'nai Yisrael left Egypt, it means the whole entire Jewish people. It doesn't just mean the guys.
Yeah, but that's in the plural.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All the kings of Judah from the line of David were men.
When it says when a person says that,
Except
I would
for,
really that
one,
Natalia.
it was a crazy cycle.
when Rachel, we spoke about this on Sunday, when Rachel said I need children, she said Havali banim. Like there's no word for children in Hebrew.
Is there ever an instance of that only in the singular as opposed to the plural? Because the two examples you gave were plural.
If I'm saying child, there's no way. If I say I need
She
a
said
child,
banim, right?
Right.
So that's plural.
Okay, I'll look for it. But speaking grammatically, the word ben could mean son and it could mean child. So the fact that it says Mashiach ben David is really not proof to anything. Now some point to the fact that it says that it's forbidden to appoint a king who's a woman. Okay, it says the Rambam writes the Ein Memanin Isha Lios Melech, because it says Melech for the Malka. It says it needs to be a king, not a queen. Okay, so
wasn't Natalia a queen? Yeah.
Maybe she usurped the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So she wasn't appointed. You're saying.
Right.
So the same thing over here. I think that the same thing is relevant to Mashiach. Mashiach is not going to be appointed. Mashiach is going to just rise. He's going to just become Mashiach. Whoever we're going to know whenever Mashiach.
He's going to take
What?
down the Zionist government.
They don't say he. So they them when probably yeah. I think
Just come up to them when they
I think you're just going to feel this inspiration that I need to save the world, I need to inspire the world, I need to bring the world to perfection in every single way. And once you do that, then that will prove retroactively that you are Mashiach. So I don't think there's anything holding back from a woman to be Mashiach. Now, the one thing which is true is that the part of the job of Mashiach is to wage war, and it does say in Chazal that waging war is not such a womanly thing to do. Okay, so that might be an argument that Mashiach cannot be a woman, because how could she be the head general, which I think is I think that would be that's at least today, like based on our reality, that's a good argument. Like I would be less comfortable if the Ramatkal of the IDF was a woman. But the thing is that Rabbi Nachman writes that when Mashiach is going to wage war on the entire world, so the way he's going to do the wars is all with his prayers.
There's a pasuk in Isaiah. It's like this peace v'tav yamit rasha.
Okay,
Yeah.
so nice. So according to Rabbi Nachman, that all the war that he's going to wage is actually spiritual wars. So then, that there's nothing holding back from women to be Mashiach. Okay? So that is my feminist view, and so that's regarding the first question, of chauvinism. What does the Torah have to say about the superiority of men over women? So I don't see anything in the Torah that shows that there's any superiority. If anything, it would be the opposite. It would come out that if women actually have higher spiritual powers, so then it would make sense that they are superior. Okay. So now this leads us to the second argument, the second part of the conversation, and that is sexism. And that is that does Judaism discriminate against women or not? So now this is when we spoke about the definition of the term sexism in terms of discrimination. So what they are referring to professionally and politically and socially. Okay, it means rights. It means having rights. Okay, so if we start with those three, so what does the Torah have to say? What does the Torah have to say about professionalism do women have professional rights in Torah? So this is something that is actually very, very interesting. That if you look at the Haredi world, which is like the most like OG, so like you see such a huge dichotomy between different sects within the Haredi world. That on the one hand you have like the hardcore Tolas Aaron, that where that I know a woman that she converted to Judaism, and like she was attracted to the Tolas Aaron Hasidus, but then she found out that the only jobs available to her were being a ganenet or being a seamstress. That there are no other career options.
Sorry, in what decade did she convert? Like in the 1950s?
10 years ago.
A lot of Haredi
10
women.
years ago. This is 10
Makes
years.
sense.
This is the fact until it's Aaron. Speak to them. So that on the one hand that there is this belief that a woman should not have a job, and based on what? What do you say?
That's okay. I said I was down to not work.
You're down. Okay.
But who's going to make the money while the husband's studying Torah all day?
Oh, so that's why the husbands don't study Torah the whole day. The husbands work.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And Tolas Aaron, the husbands work. Yeah. And so where does it come from? It comes from the way that it was in Europe. It comes from just the way things were, and like they have a certain belief that like more the way that it was back in pre-war Europe. That's the way things are supposed to be, and that's on one side of the spectrum. On the other side of the spectrum, you have the yeshiva world, where it's become an ideal that the women are careerists, and the men don't have any. They have no career options. Like it's like the opposite. It's even less. That a man, he could be a rabbi in yeshiva, or he could just be a schnorrer. He can't even be a seamstress. He only has one career option. It's really messed up. So the women are hogging the career world, and they can be software engineers and accountants and nurses and doctors and real estate agents and and the men are shunned from the world of career. If they want to get a job, then they have to become modern Haredi. They can't be hardcore Haredi and have a job. It's a contradiction in terms. So in terms of career options in the Haredi world, so there is a big spectrum, but it seems that there is that they have embraced that there is no room for sexism when it comes to that. Now, I'm not. This is not a full conversation because really, I mean, I guess at some point in history there was a question of could a woman get a job as a chemist? But that nowadays that's a moot point. I'm saying that it's even a moot point in the Haredi world, but there's still a conversation about having equal rights, meaning that there's this. I don't know how this makes sense, but apparently it's a reality that you can have a single girl and a single guy that they're doing the exact same thing, and the guy's getting paid more than the girl. Mm-hmm. Okay, so and you can't tell me that because she has to be with her kid, she has to be with her family. She has she has no kid, she has no family. It's the exact same thing. Do I really buy that they're paying her less because maybe she's going to get married and then she's going to have kids and then she won't be able to be available as I don't know, that doesn't really talk to me. That seems like just pure sexism that I don't think anybody with a moral compass would stand for such a thing. So certainly the Haredi world would say that pay the women more because they need the women to get paid more so that they'll pay the bills, right? So it doesn't make sense. I don't think that's a Jewish value that form of sexism. So when it comes to professional rights, so the ultra orthodox world has certainly evolved to the point that Torah does not believe in sexism when it comes to that. What about politically? Okay, so this is more of a this is less of a open shut case because it does appear that even though in religious circles that women are appointed as Knesset members, but I mean everybody votes. I mean there's the Talmud that doesn't vote for other reasons, but if you vote, I don't nobody believes that women's opinion shouldn't matter, whatever. When it comes to political rights, so there is actually a discrepancy between the religious that in the religious parties, so women have representation, and in ultra-orthodox parties, they don't. Where does this come from? This comes from the same ideology based on this midrash that says Melech v'lo Malka, and that we need to have a king and not a queen. And so there's a midrash that says that it's not just a king, but rather it's any form of power. Any position of power that should only be given to a man, not a position, and not be given to women. So I remember when I was a kid. So this was a discussion regarding between the conversation of women rabbis, and I remember that my rabbi at the time. So he was saying that how dare anybody say that a rabbi is not a position of power. I believe that being a rabbi is a position of power, and don't you tell me that no, the president has all the power and you're just the paid help. And no, the rabbi does have the power, and therefore it's against the Torah to believe that you can have a woman rabbi. So regarding women rabbis, so I always like to note that it's absolutely permitted to have a woman rabbi because Devorah was the chief rabbi of Israel. Okay, it's absolutely it's impossible. Yep, she was the judge. What was she judging? She was judging Torah stuff. She was judging. What did judges do? Tell me, Rabbi, judge, what's the halacha? She was the one coming with all the halachic decisions of the Jewish people. It was all from Devorah.
So you're using judge and rabbi interchangeably?
At that time, it certainly was. They were. I'm sorry.
There weren't
There
any
were-
rabbis at that
She was
point.
the authority. She was the authoritative figure of the Jewish people. So she was absolutely the chief rabbi. Having that said, it's obviously Rabbi, like the Rabbi Vishal, it's not a position of power. It's a position of inspiration. It's a position of, but I don't know what the rabbi was thinking. That
Well,
Rabbi,
Pasek is a position of power, no?
what he can tell you what his opinion is. How can he empower? What power does he have to? And if you dare use that milchik spoon, so I'm going to take that spoon. I'm going to throw it down your throat, and you're like, put it up your nose. What power does he have? He has the power to tell you that I think you should throw out that spoon. He can't really tell you more than that. Yeah. So now the for the same reason that a rabbi is not a position of power, so because it's just telling you his opinion. So the same way that we said before that if you're elected from somewhere else, then it's not a position of that if you're just in a democratic situation, so then it's not it doesn't seem to me that it's a position of power. So I don't think there's any halachic problem of having a woman chaver knesset, because the Knesset is a democracy. So there's no power. It's just like you're the people. You're what the people wanted. That your voice should be what's expressed, and then based on everyone's voices being expressed, then there's a mutual conclusion that's coming out. So I don't think there's any halachic thing. So what's really ultimately the reason? It's simply like we started the class by saying that we are affected by our surroundings, and we are affected by our heritage and the values that we grew up with. And so, in general, the Haredi world takes longer to evolve when it comes to these things, but they eventually do. And mark my words that in 50 years, there's going to be women chaver knessets in the Haredi parties. It's simply a process that's happening, and there's no doubt that it's something which is changing. Regarding women rabbis, so the truth is that it's a more complicated discussion, and that is that what we didn't, probably we're not going to speak about today, but there's in the question of sexism in Torah, so probably the greatest point of discussion is actually not about political things, but it's about halacha. Okay, it's about. But hold on a second. If women are actually equal to men, how come women don't count for a minyan? That doesn't make sense. That's being discriminatory. That's not okay. So how can you say that I can't be a chazan? How can you say that I can't be the bakari? How can you say that whatever? So now the reaction to this quote unquote discrimination against women was solved by the reform and conservative movements by saying that okay, so that whoever wrote those halachas obviously were sexist, and now we've evolved, so now we can just erase those halachas. Okay, and unfortunately, it's they're doing so was based on a very ignorant approach, and like they didn't bother to look at the rationale that was given to any particular halacha, and they just said, oh, they were probably saying that because they were sexist, and now the halacha should change. And there's when I was in high school, so there's a revolutionary feminist that her name was Blue Greenberg, and she coined a phrase which is like, it's a horrible thing to say, and it goes against the Judaism that I believe in, at least, and that is that where there's a rabbinic will, there's a halachic way. Okay, so that was the term that she coined, and that was her way of saying that there is no reason for there to be any differences between men and women in Judaism, and the only reason why there isn't is because the rabbis are sexist. Okay, and And it's so. First of all, the concept, the concept of like, if there's a rabbinic world, there's a halachic way, is simply, it's a made-up concept. It's just not true. It's just not true. There are things that rabbis want that we can't have. We want there to be a Beis Hamikdash. There's no halachic way. There's no halachic way to make a Beis Hamikdash, even though there's a rabbinic will. There should be a Beis Hamikdash. That there's like. There's tragic cases of like agunas that like 99% of the time that the rabbis succeed in permitting agunas, but there is that 1% that there's a tremendous rabbinic will and there's no halachic way. It's a fallacy to say that when there's a rabbinic will there's a halachic way is simply not factual, and moreover it's also ignorant in the fact that the reason why there's certain differences between men and women in halacha is not because of sexism, but rather because of very clear, logical differences in their obligations, etc. So anyway, but the conservative and reform movements didn't really care so much about that. So they said that let's fix Judaism, let's evolve Judaism to be egalitarianism, and that came to be the fact that conservative Judaism, they put egalitarianism as the thing that they stand for. And this is, in my opinion, this is the only reason why the Orthodox movement is against women rabbis. Not because there's, like, I'll tell you a secret. Like, it's not so hard to be a rabbi. It's not like there's, besides the fact that it's, like we said before, that there's no source at all that there's a difference between men and women in receiving information. There's absolutely it's not such a big deal. So why could a woman be the team leader in a high tech, but she can't be a rabbi official? It doesn't make any sense. The only reason why the Orthodox movement is against women rabbis is only because the conservative movement put having egalitarianism and having women rabbis as the thing that they stand for. And so really it's really a shame that the conservative movement, I mean, it's really a shame that the conservative movement exists in the first place. And that's a whole different pet peeve of mine, that I really would prefer that the conservative movement wouldn't refer to themselves as a movement, and they would just refer to themselves as a more liberal form of orthodoxy, because really, if you look at what they actually believe in, they actually do believe in a more liberal orthodoxy. But because they don't, and they believe themselves as a different movement, so then they have been targeted as the enemy of authentic Judaism, and because they've been targeted as the enemy of authentic Judaism, and they put on a flag that the thing that represents them is egalitarianism, that, my friends, is the reason why Orthodox Judaism is against egalitarianism, which is really sad, because really, Orthodox Judaism should believe in egalitarianism, and just they're forced to believe in something that they don't really believe in, just for the purpose of that nobody should suspect that we are supporting conservative Judaism, which for other reasons has decided that they don't want to be on the same page as us in terms of being authentic Judaism. So anyway, so that's regarding political power, and regarding social connections, social rights. I don't think that was ever a thing. The ability to go to school, like you all know that Sarah Schneer is responsible for the fact that our Jewish girls have schools, and believe it or not, she was met with some opposition when she had this idea that they should have but like in a lot of things, you have the really big rabbis, and then you have the really really big rabbis. And sometimes the really big rabbis, so they don't really know, but you have to go to the really, really big rabbis to know. And that was the case with Sarah Schneer, that she did face some antagonism, but when she came to the Chafetz Chaim, so the Chafetz Chaim says, yeah, that's great, it's time for change. And And it's always like that. Like it's the really big people. They're the ones that are open to change. The Lubavitcher Rebbe had many, like had many feminist views. He was obviously like not obviously, but he would say that there's absolutely no problem with women learning Gemara, and they should have higher Jewish education in all ways. And he was very inclusive. He insisted in the fact that like in all of the like newsletters for children, that there should always be a picture of a boy and a picture of a girl. That there shouldn't. That whole thing, the social, being barred from social things in terms of that's ridiculous. The fact that the Haredi world has not yet allowed women to have their pictures in newspapers is something that mark my words, that in like less than 50 years, in 10 years, that's going to change. It's already changing, and but it's not. But if you speak to the really big rabbis, i.e., like the Lubavitcher Rebbe, so then like that was a no-brainer. So anyway, so the same thing with the ability to have schools. So anyway, so when it comes to sexism, so when it comes to these first three elements of sexism, i.e., political, professional, and social, so Judaism, at least in its purest forms, does not believe in sexism, which leads us to the next question, and that is, what about religious sexism? And that will be our next class, B'ezrat Hashem. And whereas in the world of halacha, is halacha actually have an agenda to discriminate against women? So stay tuned. Toda rabah.